Okay. Don't worry. So today we are going to talk about 10 things you didn't know about virtual machines, EC2 in Amazon Web Services. So EC2 is a shortcut from the real name, Elastic Cloud Compute. It's one of the most popular services in AWS, and it's around virtual machines. So everything connected with virtual machines, not only virtual machines, as you can probably guess, is around this EC2 set of services. So my name is Miroslav Brejko and I'm a cloud solution architect. Mainly, I work with AWS and Azure projects. Lastly, more around cloud migration and cloud migration strategies. So I have a lot of experience. 3 certifications from AWS, 1 certification from Microsoft, and a lot of other stuff. So today I'm going to talk about AWS. So we don't have time to speak more about me because we have a really good stuff today. So first, we are going to talk about spot instances and is it possible to pay $0 for them? As you probably know, or maybe you don't know, there were some changes in spot instances last week. So I don't really know at this moment if this will be possible, but we will come back to that. We are going to talk about T2 instances, is special type of virtual machines in AWS that has some benefits and drawbacks. Another thing which is quite interesting, and even some guys from AWS partners and even from AWS don't know about that, because you can pay for traffic from AWS to AWS, and even in the same region and even in the same availability zone if you are doing that in a wrong way. So I will explain everything in a few minutes. And next, we are going to talk about placement groups, enhanced networking, SSM services, really cool service from AWS, scheduled instances that are called also scheduled reserved instances, dedicated hosts, auto-scaling with spot instances. So it's the most popular question I hear. Is it possible to do auto-scaling with standard instances and spot instances? I will explain that in a few minutes. And how to deploy application to EC2 to virtual machine. And as a bonus, I will tell you a little bit about GPUs. So that's all about slides, and let's switch to our console. I would like to remind you that we have this great service called Cloud Assistant. If you have your AWS infrastructure and you don't have this knowledge how to manage that, and you would like to have some kind of expert that will help you with you managing that, showing where are security problems, where you can save money, etc., etc. We have this great standard plan, professional plan, and enterprise plan. And with that, you have access to our architects, to reports, map of AWS resources. This is really great map with all your resources on one page. And information about security, backup, etc., etc., and with professional level, dedicated support during failure, backup management, architecture support. And we have really great team that is connected with this service. So really great architects, and everyone is an expert in a different part of AWS. So the only thing you need to do, you need to go to cloudassistant.com and order free 18-step AWS review. After this review done by real people from our team, you will receive 2-page information about your AWS account, with information what is good, what is bad. And you can take this report and work on that, or you can talk with us and do something good with your AWS account to make it better, more secure, more reliable, and more cost effective. So please remember, if you have time, Cloud Assist on and order free 18-step AWS review. Okay, so let's move to AWS. So AWS has a new logo, AWS, a really great logo. And today we are going to talk about EC2, virtual servers in the cloud. And as you know, you have a lot of options in EC2. So you can of course buy standard instances. They are called on-demand instances, and you pay for 1 hour of running this instance. Of course, last week AWS presented this information that they are going to change billing from 1 hour base to 1 second base. So every 1 second you will be billed for your resources. So if you are using your virtual machine for 128 seconds, you will be billed for 128 seconds. But about spot instances, scheduled instances, dedicated cost, and systems manager, and a lot of other stuff. So let's start with spot instances. As you probably know, AWS has this concept of spot instances, and the whole idea we did is that you are going to bid your price on the market, and the higher price in the certain period of time will win the instance. And what is quite important, you won't pay for the standard rate of the instance, but you are going to pay for the price of the instance that market is bidding at this moment. So I will show you that in the example. So let's choose M3 instances and the last 3 months. Okay, that's a bad idea. Let's choose M3 2x large. Oh, okay, that's great. So as you can see, standard on-demand price is 58 cents. And in this day, July the 2nd, we can see that the price of a virtual machine for 1 hour of virtual machine is around 10 cents. So 6 times less than standard virtual machine. And what is quite important, it's a really the same machine that's your on-demand machine with one difference. So the difference is that once a time there is some kind of big transaction on the spot market, and as you can see, there are some days where the price of virtual machines is bigger than, for example, 10 cents. So here we have something like 20 cents maybe. Here we have even more than 58 cents, etc., etc. So let's imagine that you are going to give your bid on the spot market for 40 cents. And if you are going to do this bid here on the very beginning of the graph, you will be paying still the value of the market. So it is quite important. You are bidding 40 cents, and if the price of the market is lower than your bidding price, you still will be paying the price of the market. That's the whole idea of the market, of the spot of the market of the spot instances. But in this example, we see something strange, that the price of the spot instances is bigger than 40 cents and even bigger than on-demand price. And in this example, what is happening? So all instances that are below the this price in this certain time will be destroyed. And what is quite important, in you will receive information that in 2 minutes your virtual machine will be destroyed. And it is true, because that's the whole idea of spot market. Who will pay more will take instances. And as you can see, demand in this day is bigger than, the price of the market is bigger, and your virtual machine will be destroyed. Of course, last week AWS show information that now you have possibility, I don't see still in my portal, you have possibility to stop virtual machine when you have this situation, but the standard option is to destroy. And what is quite important, the billing cycle for today is 1 hour. So what is happening when you are going to start virtual machine in time 00, and in 57th minute or 58th, you will receive termination notification that your virtual machine will be deleted. What now? Nothing. You won't pay any single penny for this virtual machine, because you are paying for 1 hour of this virtual machine. And this is of course theory, but not exactly. There are some companies, like this company called Bidelastic.com, and they are doing only this type of services. They have few people that are machine learning, deep learning experts from universities, and they have knowledge how to predict where and when you should bid your virtual machine on the spot market to pay 0, or to have this virtual machine available for the whole month or whole year. So really good stuff. And please remember, at this moment, and we today have September 25, if you are going to bid virtual machine on the spot market and your virtual machine will be destroyed before 60 minutes, you won't pay a single penny. Okay, let's move on to another topics. So T2 instances. So AWS has this idea of T2 instances and T2 instances pricing. As you can see, these instances, and let's look on demand pricing. So T2 instances are quite cheap. And so for example, here for T2 Nano instance that has 1 vCPU and 0.5 gigabytes of RAM, there is 0.0063 per hour. So let's look at that. 0.0063 multiplies 24 multiplies 31. So we are going to pay for this instance only $5 per month, and it's okay, but you should remember one thing. The whole idea with T2 instances is that they have this concept of shared CPU. And it's not that easy that the CPU is shared the whole time. There is a concept of buckets, and I will show you that in a few seconds. So let's look on one of my instances. So let's, for example, we have, let's look at this, my .NET Core application. So in monitoring for T2 instances, you can see these two ideas of CPU credit usage and CPU credit balance. And let's look on the M4 and you don't have this status. This is status available and monitoring available only for T2 instances. And the whole idea is that in the certain time, you have some numbers of a credit bucket of credits in your bucket. Okay, so in this example, you have 30 credits, and as you can see, probably the number of these credits is growing and growing and growing and growing and growing and growing. And during the time, when your credit balance is above 0, okay, if this is above 0, you can use 100% of CPU of this virtual machine. But if you are going to use more CPU that is available for this virtual machine, and it's not always 100%, then your credit balance will go down and go down and go down and go down. And if it reaches 0, then your CPU usage, CPU utilization won't be 100%. It will be 30%, 40%, 60%. It depends on virtual machine, but it won't be 100% for the whole time. So these CPU, these virtual machines are really good for applications that have some kind of spikes during the day, or needs a lot of power for a few minutes during an hour or during a day. But if you are looking virtual machines that are cheap and have CPU and they have 100% of CPU for the whole time, like for databases or other type of applications, then you should look for other virtual machines. And in documentation, let's look here. I will try to use Google. So EC2 T instances CPU credits. Okay, and here, and you can see that for T2 Nano, your base performance is 5%. So when you have 0 credits in your bucket, your CPU utilization will be only 5%. And if you have more, then it will be 100%. But you should really remember about that if you are looking for virtual machines that need 100% of CPU for the whole time, you should really carefully choose your virtual machines and look for T2, not always as your main choice. Okay, let's move on. So let's back for the pricing for a little bit. So EC2 pricing. EC2 pricing. So one of the coolest myths that is available in the world is that you won't pay for traffic to the cloud, and you pay for traffic from the cloud. And it's sometimes true with some workloads, but not always. So I'm really I recommend to you to go to this website, AWS Amazon Hub EC2 pricing on demand, and move below to the data transfer section. And here you can see different subsections. So data transfer in to Amazon EC2 from. Now, then you have data transfer out from Amazon EC2. And so wait a minute. So everyone is telling me that everything from virtual machines to something else is free. No. So as you can see, traffic to S3, Glacier, the DynamoDB is free, of course. So these are other services, but in the same AWS region. But if you are going to connect to EC2, RDS, Redshift, Amazon Elasticsearch, so these are services that are using EC2 below, but you don't have access to that in RDS, Redshift, Elasticsearch, etc. And if you are going to connect to these instances from Amazon EC2, even if the same availability zone, when you are using public or elastic IPv4 addresses, you are going to pay money. If you are going to connect to other instances in another availability zone, okay, even with a private address, you are going to pay some money. And of course, if you're going to connect to another AWS region, it is also true. And the same for data transfer in. So for some kind of resources you won't pay, but in this example, if you're using a public IP address to connect, so if you're connecting from one virtual machine to another virtual machine, but you are not using private address but public address, you are going to pay for the transfer. The same with other services like Amazon RDS, Amazon EC2, Amazon Redshift. And it's tricky sometimes if you have, for example, two hosts in two availability zones and RDS in two availability zones. And then it's possibility to pay a lot of money for traffic. So it's really good to check this out and to try to calculate and check if you don't have any high traffic between virtual machines, RDS, Redshift in the same availability zone or between availability zones. And between availability zones is more problematic because even if you're using public, if you're using private IP addresses, it can be costly. Okay, let's move on. Placement groups. Another concept that is quite interesting, but not too many people are using that, and it's free, 100% free, is placement groups. So placement groups is quite easy to configure. So the only thing you need to do, you need to type your name, so placement 01, and it's a logical identifier for some kind of virtual machines. So where is my placement group? I will try to refresh my window. So one more time, place 01. And I don't see my window. Interesting. It's extremely interesting. Why I don't see my placement group? I should see that. Maybe there's some problem on AWS. So let's look in another region. Let's look at Frankfurt. Okay, placement group 01. Quite interesting. So I see this problem for the first time, to be honest with you. I don't always have problem with that. So place. So maybe there is a problem with the interface, and don't worry about that. It's quite interesting that there is no information about this API call. Anyway, so the whole idea with the placement group is that you are specify that if you have two virtual machines or 3 or 4 or 5, more than one, you want to put these virtual machines really close to each other. So if you have like, thousands of racks that are in AWS region, then you want to put these virtual machines from the one availability zone. This is important, in one availability zone, in one placement group, what means that you want to put them one next to another. So the delay between these two virtual machines will be really low. And if you have this placement configuration, then during the creation of the virtual machine, and I won't show you that because I have problem with creating my placement group, what is quite interesting. You have this configuration. Where is that? It's quite interesting. Okay, sorry for that. Let's use bigger virtual machines. M4. Okay, and now you can see that we have this placement group. So especially for virtual machines that offer a lot of bandwidth and big interfaces, like these P instances that have even 25 gigabits per second. Oh, interesting. I didn't see these placement groups in the last window, but I see here. So if I want to create virtual machines, I should put here the number of virtual machines, and it's a really good idea to create them in the same step. So you are, you have some kind of reservation, not really reservation, but it's more likely that your virtual machines will be in the same host, and then placement group, and that's all. And these virtual machines will be really close to each other. Okay, another topic which is called enhanced networking, and it's a really cool topic. So AWS EC2 enhanced networking. So there is this concept in virtualized networking called single root IO virtualization. And what it is, so it allows you to use some resources from hardware networking interfaces to put your data packets to your virtual machine, and put your packets from virtual machines to the network wire, and not use virtual adapters, but use some kind of physical infrastructure for that. And this is called single root IO virtualization. And what it gives you, it helps you have higher bandwidth, higher packet per second performance, consistency over inter-instance latencies. And even if your CPU on your virtual machine is really busy with other tasks, so the task of putting packets on the wire is done by real interfaces and hypervisors on the AWS end helps with that using this technology, SRIOV. And what is quite important, not all virtual machines support that, but there's also two options. So first, we can use this Intel 82599 virtual function interface, and it supports up to 10 gigabits, and it's available for these virtual machines. And also there is something called elastic network adapter, and it allows you to support even 25 gigabits per second, and it's available for the newer and the bigger virtual machines. And what is quite important, a lot of virtual machines in AWS Marketplace, including, of course, AWS AMI and Ubuntu AMI, allows you to use that without any configuration. So they have all the drivers installed. Of course, you can download drivers and use them on your virtual machines. You can simply go to these links and see how to do that. And let's look for the configuration. I've prepared one virtual machine that has this type of configuration enabled. So it has this driver, and the driver is enabled. Let's look on that. So you should always check if you want to use enhanced networking. If you have this driver installed, and you can do that by checking if your Amazon machine image supports that. So let's look, just one second. So this is the command, AWS EC2 describe image attribute image ID. So this is the image ID of my image that I'm using. So let's look. AWS to describe image attribute. Okay, so we have this information, SRIOV net supports simple, and if we have this information that this image supports enhanced networking, and if we have information Correct. Then we can check on the running instance. So it's my running instance that should be working at this moment. And here we can see that this instance back. Let's look at that. Okay. Just 1 second. Here is my really big instance, C3 8X large, and this instance without any configuration, without installation of any external drivers supports that. So some instances, please remember, some instances have this possibility. Some instances have this feature already configured and available to you when you start your instance. And for some instances, you need to enable this driver by downloading it from the website. So that's all. And it allows you to have the biggest speed, the low latency available in AWS. And it's really recommended for instances that supports like 10 gigabits and 25 gigabits per second. Okay, move on. Another great topic that is quite new and not too many companies are using that, and this is quite interesting because it's really cool. It's called AWS EC2 Systems Manager. And what Systems Manager is trying to do, it's trying to prevent you from logging to your virtual machine. And what I mean by that, it allows you to install an agent on your virtual machine. So in this example, I have one virtual machine that has this agent, or maybe even more. No, at this moment I have 4. And what you can do, you can choose your virtual machine and do a lot of things on that. So for example, you can run a command. So you can choose commands from your command document. You can, of course, create this document by yourself with many steps. And let's, for example, do some type of list Windows inventory. So we have our instance. Of course, we are going to use on this instance. List OS, installed application true, and list of installed updates true, execute now and run. And now AWS connects with this agent installed on your instance. It is supported on the Windows instances and also of Linux instances. On Linux instances, you need to install your agent, a small piece of code that can connect with that. Additionally, you should configure some kind of EAM role that allows your EC2 to send information to System Manager. And let's wait 1 second. Okay, and let's look. Output, view output, and here is here's information. So not all information is available here. More is stored on S3 bucket. But as you can see, there are simple comments that are available to create from your AWS account, or a command line in a AWS command line, or even PowerShell command line, and use these commands without logging on your system. Additionally, what you can do patch compliance, automation, configure and apply state manager, and a lot of other things without logging to your virtual machines. I don't have any association. And here on the bottom of the screen, you have more informations about, certain pieces of these services. So for example, you have documents that specifies, how to specify a configuration of this command. Okay, so I really like this software, so please take some time and play with that. Okay, let's move on. We have 25 minutes to finish. So we have also this idea of AWS scheduled instances. And it's a really interesting but a little bit complex topic. So sometimes when you try to start your virtual machine as a standard instance virtual machine, on-demand virtual machine, you can receive information that okay, the request for your virtual machine cannot be completed because at this moment in this region, in this availability zone, we don't have this type of virtual machines that you requested. So what can you do? For example, when you have your the main time where customers buy on your website and you need these real virtual machines. So you have two options really. First, you can reserved instances. So you use this option of reserved instances, and in this scenario you can buy okay, like I did T2 micro instance that is available in EU West 1A zone for 20 months. And during these 20 months, you can, without any problem, start new instance, and with this reservation code, you can start your instance without worrying that you don't have access to this instance, because the whole idea with reservation is that this instance is ready for you, it's reserved for you. But what if you don't need your instance for 20 months? Because please remember that you are going to pay for 20 months and you need only for certain period of times. So here's the idea of scheduled instances. And with that, you just only specify that I want to start my instance this date for duration of 4 hours, and let's do that daily, weekly, monthly, etc. And of course, you need to specify if you want to Linux or Windows. Of course, always you should choose Amazon VPC or Amazon VPC. You have some instance types. Not all instance types, of course, are supported, only the bigger ones. So M for large, and of course, which availability zone. And if you are going to, let's find if you have, okay. So should be greater than, okay, so it's not as big as it should be. So let's change that weekly on Fridays. 4 hours a day. So where is the problem? I'm trying to find. Should be greater than a year. Okay, I'm trying to do that. So let's daily for 12 hours. Okay, but I don't see at this moment any virtual machine in my region. Let's try with Linux and for large EU West. And still I don't have. So the main problem with scheduled instances is that it's really hard to find one. Oh, I have some. And as you can see, we have only 39 available, 39 available, 42 available, 42 available. It's not a big number, but what is quite important, this virtual machine will be reserved for you in a certain amount of time in certain days. And quite important is that the price reduction, it won't be that big. It won't be like with real reserved instances for 20 months or 36 months, and it won't be around 60-50%. It will be between 5 and 10%. So if you are going to reserve that, you will be charged for the whole 12 hours, but you will pay 5 or 10% less than standard on-demand instances, but these instances will be reserved for you in the certain time period. Okay, next thing, dedicated hosts. So some customers started to ask AWS, so what should we do with you, AWS? We have these great licenses from Red Hat, from SUSE, from Microsoft, but these licenses require from us that we have them installed on one physical host, because these licenses are per CPU socket, not per virtual machine. So AWS started this concept of dedicated hosts, and I have to release at this moment. And what is really about, you specified what type of virtual machines you want to put on it. So for example, let's try with M4 large. Okay, it's a good. And we want to put this host. We are not talking at this moment about virtual machines. And what is most important, we are not charged by virtual machines. We are charged by host. So yes, EUS 1B, and yes, allow EC2 to automatically place untargeted instances on dedicated hosts, or we want to manually specify which virtual machines we want to put there. So quantity 1. Let's, for example, start with one dedicated host. Oh, and that's quite interesting, and that's good. We see that at this moment, in this second of time, in this region, in this availability zone, we don't have any host. So let's try with other M3 large, maybe. Okay, no, but we have one with EUS 1B. So as you can see, AWS doesn't have always everything available for the customers. So yes, we found one host, and on this host, you can put 16 virtual machines of the size of M3 large. So if you want to put this virtual machine, you simply go to action on, you can use standard EC2 API call, or go to instances and launch instance on the host. And as you can see, you cannot put all instances, so Windows is not available here because we choose Linux. No, we didn't choose Linux, but Windows isn't available. And SUSE isn't available, Red Hat, Ubuntu. And as you can see, we can only put on this host M3 large. But what is quite interesting, you can put 16 of these virtual machines on one host, and with that, you are going to pay the same amount of money for that. So the cost of the host. So let's look on the hosting side. So EC2, the pricing side, EC2 dedicated host pricing. Okay, and as you can see, we have our pricing. For M3, we have $2.50 per hour, and it depends which types of virtual machines we want to run on it. So if you want to run a 2x large, so we can put 4 virtual machines on that. If x large 8, etc., etc. We cannot mix that, what is quite important, but we can specify that these virtual machines are on one dedicated host, which is dedicated for us. M3 large. Okay, so I'm going to release hosts because I don't want to pay for that too much. A little bit is okay, but not too much. Okay, guys, so we have only 3 points, but quite interesting. And one of the most important topics that is available for virtual machines is the topic of auto-scaling. So the whole idea with auto-scaling is that you have one virtual machine in one hour, and if you have more traffic or more CPU utilization, then you can add another virtual machines without any configuration. So if you have a lot of traffic, you can add like 10 virtual machines. And if you don't have traffic, you can remove virtual machines. And a really simple topic. And I have this auto-scaling group already configured. Okay. The user interface of AWS is not always great. And this is maybe not interesting, but here I can auto-scaling group between 1 and 4 virtual machines, and it's configured by other service. But the idea is simple that at this moment I have one instance, minimum one instance. So if there any problem with this instance, there will be, idea of going for one instance, and if we have a lot of traffic, then we are going to switch to 4 instances maximum, etc., etc. But there is whole idea that this is really good for on-demand instances. But if it's possible to add spot instances for that, so it's a really good idea, because if we have, for example, some traffic on our on-demand instances, and the main traffic is served by these instances, maybe I don't need as good instances as my on-demand instances, in context, of course, of availability, not about performance. So maybe let's start with spot instances. And if you are going to configure your auto-scaling configuration, first you need to configure your launch configuration, okay? And during this process, you will find that, okay, let's use my AMI, WordPress, let's use T2 Micro. And as you can see, I don't have possibility to change that. I have one launch configuration, LC, and I can choose or spot or on demand, or spot or on demand. So what can I do if I want to use both on spot and on demand? So the idea is quite simple. You should configure 2 launch configurations. So you are not allowed to use 2 launch configuration to one auto-scaling group, but you are allowed to use 2 auto-scaling groups for one load balancer configuration. And what I mean by that, you have your load balancer, and configuration of load balancer is that it uses something called target groups. Okay. And in this example, I'm going to use 2 targets. So one instance ID and second instance ID. And as you can see, it's not a standard instance ID. It's something called auto-scaling group. And let's move to auto-scaling groups. I have at this moment 2 auto-scaling groups. Okay, don't look at the third one. Okay, and one is using on-demand instances, and this one is using spot instances. And with this configuration, your load balancer will be targeting traffic for this this auto-scaling group and this auto-scaling group. And of course, if you have a request for more virtual machines, then the second virtual machines will be added in one launch auto-scaling group, and one instances will be added with your second auto-scaling group, etc., etc. So no, but why not to use only spot instances? So please remember that with spot instances, if your application requires a lot of availability, you have some period of times when the spot instances won't be available for you, or won't be available for you for a certain amount of money that you are able to pay for that. So please remember to use at least 1, 2, depends on your application, on-demand virtual machines. And with that, you can use spot instances. Of course, there are a lot of other combinations, for example, with DNS, Route 53, and some kind of blue-green deployments with that. But it's the easiest possibility. So you should create two launch configuration, one with on-demand instances and second with spot instances, and then two auto-scaling groups, one with on-demand instances and one with spot instances. And with that, you should add them to target group during your auto-scaling configuration, and that's all. Your traffic will be switched to different auto-scaling groups. Okay. Just want to check one thing, my DNS name, a record. Okay. But this is from other auto-scaling group. Okay, guys, so let's move to the last topic. So how to deploy my application to EC2. So there are a lot of possibilities to deploy your AWS application, not AWS application, any application to your AWS EC2. So, for example, you can use AWS Systems Manager to run command and to deploy your application, to copy this application from any other stuff, any other place. Second idea is that you can simply log to your virtual machine and then download your application from any storage or any other place. Other thing, you can use some kind of FTP server on your virtual machine and transfer your application. Another possibility is to, during configuration of virtual machine, and some customers are using that, you have this possibility to put your user data. So this is script that you can put here, and some companies are putting here, the whole configuration of Apache, Tomcat, etc., and put idea to download application code from different places. I'm going really fast because there are a lot of possibilities to that. You can, of course, use CloudFormation, and CloudFormation, for example, here, open in text edit, no, open in Atom. Deployment. So you can use CloudFormation, and also some customers are using this model of deploying application because it not only deploys some application, but it can configure everything on AWS, from virtual private clouds to databases to other services, virtual machines, etc. And of course, it has possibility to install things on your virtual machines and download some packages and do even deploy code in the script. It is possible. Okay. So and other things, so you can of course use external applications that are using some kind of API of AWS services. You can also have a service called OpsWorks. It is automated chef as a service, and here you have possibility to put your applications on your stack that you are going to deploy on EC2, and you can specify, for example, that this application should be downloaded from the Git repository. And the last two ones that are available here. So first one, Elastic Beanstalk. So Elastic Beanstalk creates almost everything that we were talking about today. So as you can see, we have one environment, and a Beanstalk has this great command line utility that helps you create and deploy applications. But during the configuration of a new application, you specify the name of your application. And if I'm going to use web server environment and worker environment, let's choose web server. And you need to configure what type of code platform will be installed on your server. It can be a Glassfish, Go, Python, on Docker, or configured on the standard system. And if you want to do auto scaling, what I did in my last examples, or single instance, and after that, you will receive, like in this example, deployed application. This is Go application with the URL on the auto scaling group, and you can simply deploy your application using web portal, using API, or using command line. But there is also one greater idea to do that, and my favorite one, and my customers also love this option. So this is idea of AWS CodeStar. And CodeStart was presented a few months ago, and this is combination of different AWS resources. So code commit, so Git repository, code build, so service to build code, code deploy, a service to deploy code, and pipeline to build a pipeline from code commit to deploying code to production, and also CloudFormation that uses AWS resources to build a service. So I will show you one thing. So I have one application at this moment deployed via CodeStart, and you can do that really simple. Just create a new project, and you can simply choose available option. And for example, for applications that don't require no, I was looking for maybe Express. No, Express, but it's a good example. So for some kind of stacks, you are doing source control and deployment and monitoring, so you don't have any build and test here in the pipeline. And for some application, like for my application with ASP.NET Core, you have also build service that is here because we need some kind of compute power to change our code to a web package that will be deployed to a web server. And and we have this Git repository, and you can just simply do that and test it. And as you can see, I have my application deployed, and I have my first commit done by AWS CodeStart, and I have my second commit, which is my first commit, deployed by me. This is my name. And let's look on this application. So I have application endpoint, and why I love CodeStar. I really love CodeStar because what I can do, I can just go to my application. Okay. So let's go to, sorry for that, Node. I will do everything from, let's do that. Okay, so here is my application, here is my view, and here is my home and index CS HTML. And let's edit that. So congratulations. The end of the webinar. Save. And simply after that, I'm going to my, okay, I'm here. So git add, git commit second commit. Okay, so we see that one file has been changed, and git push. And it's interesting why I don't have this git push. Maybe I need to relog into my source code commit. Probably I need to log in one more time. So just 1 second. Connect. I just simply need to put two commands: git config, credentials. Okay, and clone is done, and now git push. So let's try one more time. Commit, and it's here. Git push. Have some problem with config. I will try one more time. Okay. So I don't need to download that. Utility push. No. But the idea is simple. During the push, I have, sorry for that, you will see, if you're going to do that, what I did 1 hour ago, you will see that, your source will be updated, and you will see this arrow here, and you will see that your build is done, and then application is deployed. And after that, you will see that your application is deployed on production. And of course, you can extend your pipeline to your environment and do whatever you want. But in this example, it's really good for, test your applications and use AWS environment to push your applications to EC2 without worrying about EC2 configuration. And the last thing, only one thing, and I'm ending this webinar. At this moment, in some regions, at this moment, it's probably number of 2. You can add graphical processor units to your virtual machines. So you simply go to your AWS EC2. It's not available in all regions. In North Virginia, it's available. So running instances, create instance, come on, launch instance, Windows, it's available for Windows virtual machines at this moment, and let's use M4 for large. And here you should see this idea of add graphical processor units. So you can add not only virtual machines, network interface, but also these graphical processor units. Woo. So we have questions, but I will answer only the one. So how long it takes to renew credits? How can predict how long credits we will be able to cover 100% utilization? So you can calculate that. So on this website, just simply go to Google, try T EC2 T instances, and use CPU credit buckets, and then you have information for how long this credit can stay in the bucket before they expire. So you can easily calculate how many hours you have per virtual machine, and how long you can use that. So guys, sorry for 4 minutes delay. We have a little bit of problems, but many of the demos went really good. So thank you so much, and I will really encourage you to try these things we were talking about today, especially spot instances, CodeStar. What else? I have my agenda here. T2 instances to try to see that the CPU utilization is lower after some period of time. Auto scaling, and of course AWS EC2 Systems Manager. Amazing service. So guys, thank you so much. Thank you for being here and spending time with me with my language. And thank you, and have a great day. And please remember, do not forget, visit in your spare time Cloud Assistant and order free 18-step AWS review of your configuration. Even if you are an expert, it's really good to have other experts that will help you with your environment and will show you what else can be done with your environment. You can, but you don't need to show this report for your managers. Just simply do that for your own comfort to have information that your configuration is really good. So thank you very much one more time, and see you on another webinar about AWS and cloud migration strategies. Bye.